Hello, welcome back. And now today we are talking about timeline for rest and recovery. So this isn't going to be a perfect science. Everyone's timeline is going to be a little bit different. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to walk you through kind of week by week what it may look like and break it down so that it may make a little bit more sense and maybe might seem a little bit more manageable to go and tackle this fourth trimester. Okay, so week one, right? We're figuring it all out. So week one is triage mode. I want you in week one to focus only on feeding both yourself and the baby. So I really do mean when it's triage mode over here, you are surviving, right? I mean, it's not like it's terrible, but it's hard. It's a big change. You're going from being super pregnant and struggling with possibly sleep and other things and discomforts and wondering when the baby's coming and preparing for everything to all of a sudden you've maybe spent 2 days in the hospital and now you're home and you've got this little person to take care of. So your jobs right now are to feed your baby and to rest. And other people's jobs are to feed you. So if you followed the advice in the first module and really tried to prepare and try to have the support surrounding you, then you will be set up for success here and you'll be able to feed yourself and your baby and just get through the week. So a lot of people this week might want to visit you, and that can be very exhausting. So I am giving you permission right now. Don't be afraid to ask some visitors to hold off if that's overwhelming for you. If it's not overwhelming, you feel like you want your village around you and you feel like they can only help, fantastic. You need to figure out what works for you. During this first week, you're going to be figuring out so much about your baby, about your little routine with your new little family, the roles that you and your partner may have, who's going to take turns doing what. You're starting to breastfeed possibly or figuring out the formula schedule. There's a lot to figure out. Please give yourself a lot of grace and just focus on the basics. Week two. Okay, I can do this. Getting into possibly the beginnings of a groove. You may be establishing your milk supply. You're managing your pain and your bleeding likely, which still is probably very much there. So, as you're figuring out things with the baby, you're also trying to take care of yourself, and hopefully that's going well. So, along with those first two items, so for me, this is the week that I started to actually wear regular underwear. So this might mean that your pain and your bleeding are getting a little bit better. Don't be worried though, or feel like you're behind if this isn't the case. If you're not ready, if you're still wearing those big diaper pads, because for my first two births, for my first two children, I was still wearing those like big diaper pads or my homemade little diaper pads or whatever, and those mesh underwear from the hospital at the 2-week mark. So no rush if you're not ready, but this may be time that you're starting to feel a little bit more healed up. Incontinence may improve. I felt like until this point, until week 2, I didn't have full sensation and like any type of exertion, bending down to pick up the baby, I sometimes would leak. So, but week 2, I know this time anyway, I was feeling a little bit better with that. You'll very likely still need the peri bottle when you go to the bathroom. Remember, that's the water bottle they give you in the hospital that you use to spray yourself instead of using toilet paper. So you spray yourself clean after going to the bathroom, and then you pat yourself dry with toilet paper. This week, night sweats may very well likely be in full force, along with breast leakage if you're breastfeeding, full force. This was my experience, and I will say again, it was worse with my second two children, possibly because they were my second two children, possibly because those were my two summer babies. The night sweats were not nearly as bad with my first. She was a winter baby. At the 2-week mark, I don't want to go too much into weight and focus on weight loss too much, but by the 2 week mark, I had like my main bloating, my big belly had come down, and I lost a big chunk of my baby weight by this point. So 2/3, I would say. I was down 2/3 of my baby weight by week 2, but then it stalled until week 12. Like for the rest of my maternity leave, I did not lose a single additional pound. So I'm only mentioning that just to kind of temper some expectations that, okay, you may be feeling like, all right, this is good. I'm like feeling a little more like myself, but then don't put too much pressure on additional weight loss for the rest of your maternity leave. Okay. Let's just go with it. Week 3. I remember thinking at around week 3, so does it get better? Because like I was in triage mode for weeks 1 and probably 2, and I was kind of expecting a lot of things to get better right now, and they weren't totally getting better because we're still kind of in triage mode, probably for the first month, right? You're really starting to get to know your baby and establish a routine and all of that for probably at least the first month. So week 3, you're still trucking through. Sleep when you can, give yourself grace, soak in the snuggles. Those are my pieces of advice. Night sweats may be easing up by this week, but everybody's different. I remember I was recording my symptoms this time around, really, so I could give you guys a good idea of at least my experience. And on day 19, they were still there. So, and every baby is absolutely different. This time I feel like I had my fussiest baby the third time around. My baby was still fussy at 3 weeks. I expected him to be less fussy and starting to sleep more, but it was still tough at this point. So I remember that it was wearing on me. So you're not alone if this is you. And if this is not you, great for you. I felt like, and again, this was a summer baby, I started to notice BO this week. I think it's like the night sweats and, you're not showering every day and you're just kind of like sitting around most of the day, even though you're not doing anything. And I started to notice that. I started to notice headaches too, because I think probably being able to focus on drinking lots of water was not top of mind, but really try to focus on drinking water because I did get headaches this week. This week, you may feel like you can do a little more physically. You may think, oh, I can go on outings. I can go out and do some things, but doing too much too soon will definitely cause your bleeding to increase. Okay, I think I may have taken my first walk outside during this week, and I noticed the next day my bleeding was increased. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something to be aware of so that you don't do too much too soon. Week 4, I noticed that a lot of our visitors were really flooding our gates in the first couple weeks, and week 4 help dwindles. And it's ironic because this was around the time that I was finally like, okay, we can take on some more visitors. So my advice this week is line up some visitors and those who are willing to bring food. And if you haven't yet, maybe this is a good week to try to go for a walk, see what your energy level is like. Because this is the week that I felt like we had to start fending for ourselves more. So please don't be afraid to reach out for help, because I know that I did. And week 4, I believe that was around the time, all 3 times that my husband went back to work. So if you have a partner that has time off, he or she may be going back to work soon. So you may have to kind of line up some of your other reinforcements to help you out. Hopefully, around week 4, you may feel mostly healed with some tenderness down there, especially if you had a 1st or 2nd degree tear. I know I still definitely had tenderness at this point. C-section mamas and 3rd and 4th degree tears, it's normal to still be in discomfort beyond this point. Like I said, if you feel up for it, try a short walk. I know that when I did, my bleeding did increase because when I started back, I felt fairly good, but I think I did walks 3 days in a row and I noticed that my bleeding increased. Okay, week 5. You've got this. You are starting to get into a routine, into a groove. But I really want you to focus on rest, even if you feel good. Because you may really feel like you've kind of gotten yourself back a little bit, but if you overdo it, you may notice more symptoms. You may be getting longer stretches of sleep at night because around this time, babies might be starting to not have night and day so mixed up, and they may be sleeping for bigger stretches. But at the same time, you may not. I was not at this point. So I definitely still needed rest, still needed help. Getting to 1 wake up is a total game changer. So if you are in that like 2 wake up mode right now, just know that the 1 wake up time is coming and it is a game changer. I felt like a different person the nights that I only had to wake up to feed the baby once. But like I said, don't be discouraged if you're not there yet. I did not get there for a while, especially with my third. Week 6. Okay, you're healing up. This is the week that you will likely, at the end of this week, have your follow-up OB appointment where they're going to check you out, see if you're healed, and possibly clear you for normal activities. So congratulations, you've reached the end of your first 40 days, which is that quarantine time that you really need to try to rest as much as possible. You may be cleared for swimming, sex, and exercise. I cared about the swimming a lot with a summer baby, and it felt so good to get back in the ocean after having a baby. Night sweats were gone for the most part for me by this point. For some, they linger. I'll keep saying it. Everyone's different, so please don't be discouraged if you still have the night sweats. And at this point, I believe I was able to stop using the breast pads all the time because my supply was finally starting to regulate. So I wasn't leaking all the time, which was also nice. Week 7. Please pace yourself. Do not overdo exercise at this stage. Even if you have been cleared, you are still healing internally and hormonally. So you are just right on the cusp of getting back to normal physically. But remember, internal healing takes time. With the baby in there, all your organs were pushed aside. Your uterus is still trying to shrink back to its original size. Your organs are getting back to where they were supposed to be. You may have had incisions in there, and a baby came out of you either way. So things are still rearranging and getting back to normal. If you, I'm a broken record, you are setting yourself up for long-term success with hormonal health if you let yourself rest, okay? If you let yourself heal, and if you do all of the things in this course that are supporting your healing. So you may feel good, but you still need to rest. And I don't want you to feel guilty about it. And I think that's why I keep saying it, because moms have this feeling oftentimes of feeling guilty for resting, feeling lazy for resting. And it's not that. It's really not that. You need to embrace this time as a time to rest and heal. My advice, I'm not going to say sleep when the baby sleeps because everybody's different and that advice can be enraging for some people. But I will say that baby's first initial sleep of the night tends to be their longest stretch. If you can try to get a big chunk in that first nighttime stretch of theirs, you may actually get a stretch of connected sleep and it might make you feel a lot better. Week 8. So you are building endurance at this point, right? So say you're getting back to walking more regularly. If you're getting back into an exercise routine, great. If not, great. Whatever works for you. Hopefully you're still feeling stronger every day and you can start to increase the intensity and frequency of exercise if you're doing that. For me, I didn't get back into actual exercising at this time, but I really was focusing on walking because I enjoyed it and it was giving me a really good gauge of where my endurance was. Because in the beginning, I could only do like 15 minutes before feeling kind of weak and tired. And then when I started to get to like 30 minutes or maybe even 40 minutes, I was realizing, okay, I'm building up my endurance here. But just be very mindful as you're doing this and any kind of exercise for any signs of prolapse, overt fatigue, or like dizziness, and adjust activity accordingly. I think this was the point where I was getting to be okay without a nap. Like in the beginning, I was like, I need to get a nap in during the daytime. And at this point, I think the baby was getting less fussier in the night. And I was able to, even though I still had a few wake ups in the night, I was still actually sleeping enough at night that I didn't need a nap during the day. If you still need one, great, whatever works for you. And I also noticed I had improved energy for cooking and for outings. In the beginning, one outing, I needed to rest the rest of the day. Now, by this point, it was okay. I could go for a little bit of a longer outing. I could maybe go to a family member's house for a longer stretch of time, but kind of be aware of your limits because everybody has some. And it is okay to say, I need a rest. That's too much. That's too long. Same with having people over. Is this timeline too long? Have people been over for too long and you've reached your limit and you need them to go? It's okay. Week 9, keep on keeping on. Outings with the baby are great practice for if you are about to go back to work soon, figuring out, okay, how long can I actually handle being on my feet, being out of the house before I'm totally wiped, and building up your endurance for that. For if you are going back to work soon, it's probably a good idea. If you do have moments of quiet, if your baby's doing a little better resting during the day, take this time for journaling, self-care. If you're still needing those naps, go for it. But especially if you're going back to work soon, take some time for yourself, if at all possible. At this week 9 mark, you may still feel a little vaginal or perineal tenderness if you had second-degree tears. Second-degree tears are what I had all 3 times. So at week 9, I was still feeling some tenderness down there. This is the time I've started noticing my hair shedding, although the peak hair shedding time seems to be around the 3-month mark. Like I said, if you're not back to work yet, outings with babe can help assess your endurance for being up and about for longer periods. Journaling can help you process through tough emotions because this might be the point where you may be realizing, okay, I may have had a little bit of baby blues in the beginning, or I may have had a little bit of anxiety, or I'm feeling a little bit sad, or I'm having trouble processing these emotions. This would be a good time to really self-reflect and see where you stand on those things. And we will talk a lot more about this in the mental health module. But it's good to get in touch with your emotions around this time. Week 10, you still got this, okay? Back to work soon. Savor these last weeks with baby now that you are hopefully pretty much healed. So if you are getting back to work soon, I recommend make a list of things that you need because you may need to run some work-related errands, new clothes, new shoes, whatever you need to do. You may need a note from the doctor to clear you to go back to work. Try to settle up some of these things. It might make you feel a little less overwhelmed about going back to work. I know I was overwhelmed every time. I went back to work at 12 weeks every time. And I remember feeling overwhelmed about it. But if I had my ducks in a row and I kind of even like got my work bag ready ahead of time, I felt a little bit better about it. These are the times that if you do have family or friends close by that can come over and watch the baby, it might A, get you used to leaving the baby with somebody else for a very short period of time, and B, might give you a chance to go get your hair done, get your nails done, get a massage, and handle some of the things that might make you feel a little more like yourself before you get back to work. Otherwise, use these last couple weeks, if you have a few weeks left, to soak in the snuggles, watch all the shows. Don't feel bad about binging TV shows. This is your time to still rest. When else in your life are you going to have this amount of time off from work? So no feeling guilty. Do all the resting that you can between now and going back to work. And if you'd like, you can use this time to establish a good workout routine or exercise routine, even if it's like 10 minutes a day, because then if you establish a routine now, it might be easier to kind of keep up with it when you do get back to work. And for all you stay-at-home moms, please don't feel like I'm pressuring anyone to go back to work or that that's the only option or the only right answer. Absolutely. If you're going to stay home with your baby, fantastic. That's wonderful. It's a very hard job. I am somebody who chose to go back into the workplace and send my kid to daycare. That was just me, just my personal choice. So you've got this. You did it. You have finished this module. It may seem impossible to prioritize yourself during this time, but it's a mindset shift from what we used to do. So if you implement the strategies in your first module, gather your village, gather your support, prepare for being able to eat postpartum, it will be much easier. Okay, thank you so much for bearing with me. This is a long module. I so appreciate each of you being here. And next, we're going to talk about nutrition and how to support our healing through food. See you there.